Napoli are eliminated in the group stage of the Champions League for the first time since 2018-2019. In the three previous editions, the Partenope, they've always advanced at least past the first phase of the competition. So credit to Chelsea. We'll talk more about Chelsea shortly, but where does this leave Napoli, Grella? Because yes, you can say they've had injuries, but so has every team, as you kind of pointed out. This is going to be a real knock, isn't it, to the reigning champions? Yeah, I think they have had crazy injuries for sure. That has to be said, but every team plays with the injuries. And also they missed on a lot of signings because they were not able to put those players into the game to make a difference. They signed strikers, they signed midfielders, they signed Luka, they sent him to go because they missed. Lang sent him to go because they missed. Bokoma didn't start today because they didn't trust him. They'd rather play with Juan Jesus. I think when it comes down to Napoli, it's simple. We saw this last season as well. And with Antonio Conte, you can tie this into. They want to win per forza. What that means is, like, they want to win even if they don't have the team to win, even if they don't have the style to win, even they want to win and they got to win, and that's it. And they'll fight and they'll push and they'll try and they'll get midfielders to score. And they throw the kitchen sink at you, and they give physically everything that they have. The fans the same. So you have to applaud them for that. But when you come to the highest competitions and when you play against the best teams, you have to have quality. They don't have a lot of quality. That's the fact. That's the truth. If you watch football and you understand, Napoli don't have a lot of quality when they have the football. They scored 9 goals in 8 games, not enough. They didn't create enough chances. They didn't manage games in the right way. And in the end, if you add the fact that they missed signings, it's very difficult for them to compete on the highest level. And I also think to shift it to Antonio Conte, I also think that he demands so much every day, every training session, every game, every single competition, right? So as a player, when you're playing 50, 60 games and you don't enjoy the football that you're playing, it's grinding football that demands a lot. I think then the response becomes less and less and less and less. And then you see how they finished 30th in the competition, 9 points off the Scudetto, 30th in this competition out of 36 teams. There's teams that don't even, with all due respect to them, I didn't know existed before this competition this year. Carabao, I didn't know anything about. They finished higher than Napoli. For me, it's an impossibility that a club like Napoli can accept this kind of exit in the Champions League. It's funny. We were around the 43rd minute, I think, Højlund scored, right, to make it 2-1. And we were applauding them about how well they were playing. But you made a comment to me. There was a pressing moment. And Grella said to me, how long can they keep up this pace today, right? And in the end, it looked like they lost legs. Completely lost legs. And I think what you see with Antonio Conte's team sometimes is that, as you talk about, the demand is so much all the time. At some point in the season, you start to break down, right? And then you couple that with all of the injuries that they have, boy, and it's like the perfect storm for him right now. Yeah. Because if you, at halftime, it looked like there was one team that was going to win the game, and that was Napoli. But then they ran out of gas. They give up counter-attacking goals. Joao Pedro, give him credit, right? He scored a couple of really good goals today. But you give opportunities to put teams in those positions. He may have to look a little bit. It's going to be hard for a guy like him to change the way he wants to play. But if he's going to, in his career, manage his way through Champions League, he's going to have to look at something. Right? Because whatever he's doing in European competitions, it doesn't work. Now, if you only want to win league titles, I say only, right? It's almost unfair because the guy wins league titles. We know that. But I still think that great managers that manage in European football want to get through this competition, and they want to have a trophy or have an 100%. Opportunity to win a trophy at some point. He hasn't been able to do that. Is it a blemish on his European record, Nigel? Because that is the narrative, and going out at this point in the competition doesn't help that, regardless of the kind of team he has.
I'd have to say so, yeah. He doesn't really have a great European record anyway. So I think for me that everyone knows that if you do want to win a domestic title and you've got a capable squad or a good team, Conte can come in there and get you a title as long as you're not competing in Europe. But every time he's had to compete in the domestic league and also Europe, it's not great reading. You know, he doesn't like that. I think he's a week-to-week manager that likes the domestic grind. The players will respond better to that. It's not easy to win a domestic title. So I've got to give him credit to that because many managers try their entire life and they can't even finish in the top 4. So that is it. But for the European side of stuff, getting into that next level, I don't think it reads too well. So I wouldn't really say it's a blemish in his record because he doesn't really have a great record where you'd look at him like that. The best finish for him is to a quarterfinal with Juventus in all the times he's been in Champions League. And half the times he's been in Champions League, his team doesn't qualify to the knockout stages. So that's a really, really
poor record for someone with his pedigree, for someone that wins that many domestic titles.
He also lost the European Cup, like Jimmy said, to Sevilla when he was at Inter.
Yeah.
So
we did do a poll on YouTube to see how surprised everybody would be if Napoli did get knocked out at this point in the competition. Surprised Napoli didn't advance. 45% of you said yes, so 55% of you think no.
Yeah, but this number represents the beginning of today, which we were also very pessimistic about their chances of beating a talented Chelsea side. I thought, they needed a win as well, so it was not going to be difficult. They came in, the bookies underdog by a mile, so those numbers don't surprise me. I'd like to see those numbers before the competition kicked off.
Right.
And I guarantee you that would say 90% Napoli will go through.
Just very quickly, do you think, though, in some ways, once they get over the hurt of today, that there is a world that they can get back in the Scudetto race? Because they've fallen out of that recently, haven't they? But I suppose the one silver lining is, yes, you've got no more European football, but now they can, for the rest of the season, which is just over halfway, concentrate on the domestic league?
I mean, the only thing they'll have to do is hope that Inter slip up and hope that Inter maybe have some serious injuries that will slow their momentum down. Obviously, nice we saw Lukaku coming back, who I think will be a big difference to their side and their push for the Scudetto. But again, it's a situation where it's not in your control now. Just like it was how they've had their run for the Champions League. They left it too late, that it wasn't fully in their control, and they didn't help themselves. And I think, for me, the one result, I know Grella said they lost it earlier on. The one result for me that I think is the real standout is the Copenhagen result. I think that one there is the one that's hard to forgive, where they go down to 10 men and you throw away 2 points, where if you'd have come and won that game, you come with a little bit more breathing room in this game here. And then again today, you're 2-1 up. And at first, when we watched it, we saw men versus boys. We thought, wow, Napoli look really good. You got to see the game out, which goes to the point that Grella says. They still don't know how to manage games in certain aspects. And at this level, you have to manage games.
One positive, I suppose, was Romelu Lukaku coming back. Maybe we thought he could do something against his former club. Here's just a look at the numbers that Napoli have put up in the attack, though, because as we mentioned, Lorenzo Luca has made his way to Nottingham Forest, and then Noah Lang also out. Antonio Vergara, Grella, did you like what you saw from him today? He's had a goal. Scott McTominay, they're still relying heavily on him, but Rasmus Højlund's had 3 and 8, which is not too bad.
They had about a 15-minute span where they were in control of the game, and they could have probably got the third one, and they were bullying Chelsea a little bit. Chelsea looked a little bit all over the place, and then got caught in transition. This
is exactly what you say about seeing the game out. And this is what top teams at this level will be able to do. You already know what's at stake. Listen, if we don't make it, we don't make it, but at least we come out of this competition and say we beat Chelsea in the last home game, and there's a bit more pride about it. See the game out there. You're 2-1 up against Chelsea, a very young side, not as experienced as the Napoli side with the players that they have. See the game out. Make it ugly. You're at home. Just see that game out and see off with a win.
Yeah, because even if they had drawn, there was still a world in which they could have advanced if other results had gone their way. Do you think there'll be a big fallout from this, Tony, from either Conte or anybody at the club? Because at the beginning of the season, he did throw his toys out the pram, didn't he? Saying, this isn't the team I wanted. I don't know how much I could do with this team.
Every week. So
this is a big moment,
One week he has too many players in the dressing room. 1 week he doesn't have enough. They don't do enough. Yeah, I think a lot of that is deflecting stuff from his players, right? And we see managers do that all the time. I just still look at, I'm looking at the big picture with this game, right? Your Serie A champions, right, don't get through the top 24 in Europe. Right, I think it's going to hurt a little bit for Antonio Conte for sure, because the guy certainly wears his heart on his sleeve, right, with results. I think it's going to hurt for Napoli too. It's not sort of below Antonio Conte to walk away at the end of the year, right? Who knows what the thinking is, but they have an owner in De Laurentiis that he's a little bit of a eccentric character, let's call him, right? And he could say, enough is enough. Okay, we won a title here, but, we need to make a change now, right? It's not beyond that happening at the end of the year. I think the one good thing, you mentioned the Scudetto title, still 9 points out after 22 match days. I think that's a long haul to try and make up.